In the 21st century alone, there are already 3 live-action Spider-Man starring Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland. Each actor has made different impressions on the audience, and so have the classic suits. It divides the audience into many groups fighting each other. This guy prefers Maguire's suit. The other girl prefers Holland's MCU-ish black lines. This never-ending controversy led me to come up with the bright idea. If we collect all the opinions about each live-action classic version of Spidey Peter Parker, then select what majority liked, disliked, and combine them all together with the original Spidey design in the comics, then could we achieve a perfect live-action classic Spidey suit? And that's also the main concept of this video series. Hello everyone, this is my first and brand new video, which I hope will get me into the social media art industry, and also the first in a series I'm working on. First, I would like to introduce myself. I am a super amateur artist from Vietnam and really love the superheroes genre, tokusatsu and some shonen manga like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, One Piece, the old good Dragon Balls, etc. You guys can call me Basephoth. So it means that this will be a platform for me to draw and discuss the topics that we just talked about seconds ago. I might not make tutorial videos on how to draw right now because there are too many of them on YouTube. But if I change my mind, that will be saved for another time. And if you're curious, try searching for me through the links I'll put in the description below. I will answer you directly in these channels. Enough talking, shall we? Oh, a word of caution. In this video, though I just focus on the first 3 official classic suits like Raimi's Web suit, Webverse The Amazing Suit from The Amazing Spider-Man and the MCU stock suit. But the other classic suits like the Amazing 2 suit and the Handmade suit at the end of the movie Spider-Man No Way Home will also be automatically included because of the similarities. Can you see? After I personally surveyed everyone, from friends, family, relatives to fandom, as well as consulted Spider-Man suit reviews to videos on YouTube, Reddit, etc. We have. As for the web suit, most people like those strong muscle, visible cobwebs, sharp eyes that create unpredictable sharpness and glossy texture. Not to mention, this is also the origin of the realistic sharp spider symbol, a simple design that is true to the essence of Peter Parker but still creates a contrast between his 2 identities. This design is also more poorly strengthened. Unlike other versions, those are still partially dependent on modern technology. However, this suit's weakness is that the color scheme is too bright compared to the plot. The design is too monotonous. Unlike a highly practical outfit, sometimes creates a feeling of hunchback, sluggishness that should never have. Yeah, I also wonder how he could even make the suit himself. The Amazing Suit's dark color scheme clearly describes the ugly reality of the movie and the situations where Spider-Man needs to be stealth. The slim and strong figure creates a first mystery character, suitable for a warrior fighting evil in silence. Innovative design with beautiful dark textures, nice stylized symbol combined with cobwebs, less red than blue to create a sense of agility and elegance. The lenses have a yellow, reflective tint, rather novelty. The character's personality is also clearly shown through this design, being more handmade and tactical because it makes him look very slim, supple and strong. correctly describes Peter Parker as a smart, crafty but quite introspective, quiet guy. However, people point out that this suit also has the weakness that the color scheme is too dark. The eyes are quite small and the cobwebs are not very visible. The small details are a bit rough and create a confusing feeling. The shoe part is also very similar to sneakers, while Spider-Man's shoes are usually tie footwear. I don't really get that last part. Stark suit, love for its MCU-ish freshness and closeness to the comics, both the cute little spider symbol and the lens mechanism. The two bright red and blue colors are nicely mixed with some delicate black lines. Another strong point of Holland is that there are a lot of high-tech gear with assistive technology, from the spider symbol that can be separated from the chest to become a small drone, the compact web shooters, the suit with a self-tightening mechanism, keeping warm, the Axis vision lenses mechanism, etc. But that's also the further point. This Peter Parker has become so dependent on Tony Stark technology and forgets that he is also very intelligent, able to do most things on his own, without assistance. His suit is beautiful, but it looks too much like a toy figure. It doesn't convey any meaning or story about Peter Parker. In addition, the spider cobweb part is also faded compared to this whole suit, when it should be the most visible to show the spider theme. I've actually watched No Way Home and understand that the MCU is trying to rebuild a new biography for this Peter Parker, but who knows? That's what this survey said. Okay, it's fusion time. From the survey above, we can see that the audience quite like a classic Spidey suit with the following condition. 1. Slim, neat figure with clear muscle. 2. Realistic and compatible self-made suit but not too fussy. 3. Has footwear. 4. Visible Spidey cobweb on the suit, combined with the legs of the realistic sharp and big but clean simple. 5. Big and sharp white goggles with light yellow reflection can be zoomed thanks to the lens mechanism. 6. Not rely much on the modern technology. 7. Slightly dark color scheme with delicate black lines and more blue than red. 8. Shiny dark sunken texture. Interesting. I gave these bullet points to a few of my friends who know more about drawing than I do, to see if they could redesign the live-action classic Spidey suits that they think would satisfy the majority of the audiences or not. It wouldn't be too surprising if suddenly there were a few designs that share similarities given that there is the guideline, but I find this interesting because soon we'll see can everyone's perspectives still affect final designs or not. Let's take a look at their design right after this and hope they are probably Spider-Man. And accompanying me, representing easygoing fans, today is Fuko, claiming to represent die-hard fans, Huinke, representing male non-fans, and Lady Zeleny represents female non-fans. There are also 3 of the people who had helped me complete this survey, so rest assured, they at least know what they're talking about.
Hi guys.
Hello everyone.
I also have my own design at the end of this video, but since this is my channel, I will probably redraw their design in my art style and put them next to the original drawings to give you guys a better view. Now, let's get started. Here is the first design by Spectator 4902.
I get most of the design from the comics,
just adding some simple stitching lines and a zip at the neck to show that Peter made the suit himself. At the heel and toe tips, I add a layer of rubber so that when running and jumping, Spidey can reduce the impact force. The spider symbol is larger, modified and pointed, with the bottom legs running along the flanks hams parallel to the cobweb line on the abdomen. His lens frames are bold to show the lens mechanism. Actually, I wanted the web shooters to be bigger and more complex designed. But I think simplicity is the only way to show Peter's characteristics. I want to change the blue part into cyan and the red part to be less vibrant compared to Holland's version. And in terms of color distribution, I removed the red part connecting the shoulders to the hand, as well as changed the red fingers in a plain cyan color to synchronize with the legs, which are also separated and have a cyan rubber layer. I also made the spider symbol black and added black lines to always separate the red from the cyan. As for the texture, I imitated the air pockets of the amazing suit for the red part because it was very practical. And the cyan part, I want bright lines like Holland's classic suit at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, on the outside of the thighs and the waist.
Air pockets were quite a challenge. I've tried my best. Some of the pieces I drew were also a bit off from the original, like the eyes seem a bit big and the lens frames are a bit small. But in terms of the number of cobwebs, grid cells and their placement, I think I've done well enough. Okay, as an easygoing fan, and also had taken a while to draw it, so I'm going to be a bit biased towards this design. What I like is the way Spectator not only keeps the design of the classic suit, but also adds a zipper at the neck, something I haven't seen much in a live-action classic Spidey suit before. The idea of an impact-reducing rubber foot bag, which he called the rubber layer, is also pretty cool. I think it's the same as Garfield's so-called sneakers.
I don't know if that rubber armor layer really works, but I think it's basically fine.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. If Spider-Man were to fight a villain without this rubber armor, I bet he'll be stepping on a lot of broken glass, and he'll end up spending most of his time holding his leg instead of saving the world.
Really?
And I'm noticing this spider symbol. It feels like Spider Armor Mark IV. Even the usage of these spider legs to make black lines separating the red from the cyan is quite subtle. Enough to make the suit look modern, but not as rough as Holland's suit.
I find it quite amusing in an interesting way. You can see the combination of the cuteness in Holland's symbol with the sharp edge of Garfield.
I thought it was fine at first, but when I looked closely, I didn't quite like it. The head of this symbol doesn't really look like a spider, but more like the head of a beetle. Like, the spider's legs are also a bit shriveled compared to reality, while the challenge topics also require reality. Like, as for the body of the symbol, it looks too fat, and I'm not a fan of this hybrid design.
Wow, for a non-fan, you seem pretty strict about designs, don't you?
Am I? Like, I'm just saying what I think. Like, that's our role in this podcast, like, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. We're representing 4 different groups, right? Anyway, back to the main point. The web shooters here have actually so simple, it fits the overall design very well. It blends well with the other black lines that separates the red and cyan patches on the suit.
Well, it's true that it fits. It's too simple and unmemorable for a live-action suit. If you want to sell follow-up products, you can use the design.
Simply put, if there are a lot of buttons or some mechanism on it, people will still buy it. But I think if it's like this, then buy the whole glove part to play around with.
Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's true that it's somewhat
Oh.
simple. Like, I'm not very impressed either.
Okay, and I've seen many videos suggesting that the classic design Spidey suit should remove the red connecting the arms to the shoulders because the original design's blue legs always have a lot of dead space. So a spectator not only applied it but also added cyan to the fingers, and the rubber armor on the feet is for synchronization. It's also an okay detail.
A lot of Spidey's design these days always have that space error on the legs, especially the recent PS4 game's Advance suit. Because the red patch connecting the arm to the shoulder, even though they try to separate them into detailed patches based on human anatomy.
Yeah, you're right. I don't really like that design either. That's the problem with a lot of current MCU designs as well. Most of them are over-detailed in unnecessary places and plain in places where they are needed.
MCU suits are over designed.
Speaking of which, the design of the web that goes all the way from his foot to his knee is quite new in a Spidey suit. If given a chance, I would love to see other poses, and angles of this design, to see if like this really fits the overall.
If the development department of the PS4 game had approved, I'm exhausted right now and don't really want to draw another artwork,
Well, personally, I don't like these shoes designs very much because they look much more like socks. Like, along with the smooth fingers details, like, it's true that there are no problems overall, but if you go into details, you'll find a bit encroached. Like, the suit doesn't fit at all. Like, looks like being put on, like, doesn't feel as seamless as a one-piece suit.
Yeah, but please remember, the smooth fingers don't have the springy cobwebs like Maguire's with Garfield's second suit. It's actually very practical. It will help Peter grip more firmly to the specific planes.
Oh yeah, I love these kinds of fingerless gloves
Hey,
too.
I didn't say anything about the finger thing. I'm still talking about spectators' back sync.
As for the texture, I've always been impressed with the amazing suit's air pockets.
That's right. This time texture will create a very unique quality for the design. For the design, I find the way spectators choose the material very appropriate.
However, I don't like the half-mask light very much. I don't think it's suitable for a live-action suit as well as Maguire's suit. Because his mask omits this detail, leaving square shape to show the trustworthiness. The two lines that run down the sides are a bit too rough, though I understand what it means. And on the thighs is pretty simple. I think it's almost obscure. And there are already stitching lines on the thighs, given that spectator wants to synchronize his arms and legs. He should have added more lines on the biceps. The rubber layer on the feet is also a bit rough and takes up more space than usual. I personally wanted to have something more detailed on... shorten it because if it's left, it feels like the cyan color of the feet will not match with the cyan parts on the fingers anymore, especially when the feet has less black patches than the hands.
But it's true that it's messed up the overall look of the shoes, since they're only red and two separate cyan patches. But I don't think it's a big deal.
It is a big deal, like in my eyes, because this rubber part occupies large areas on the feet. It feels like the open-toe socks. Like looking up, this design looks like a cyan-skinned person wearing socks.
And another thing that I'm not really satisfied with is his cyan color choice. no matter how much he tries.
Doesn't even matter how hard you try.
To darken it, it will still be too vibrant compared to red. And, okay, it doesn't really match the condition mentioned by the audience and us.
Right, this cyan red will be quite painful for the eyes.
My eye!
Even though it's quite creative. So I think if it appear on the animated series like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it would be better than a live-action movie.
I mean, I like this option, even though it doesn't really fit the criteria, but it gives me a fresh, a really peaceful feeling. And I think that reducing the intensity of the red will make it easier to blend with the cyan.
I agree more with Basephoth. Like, cyan is not a really beautiful and does not meet the expectations that we're having.
Okay, now it's Fuko's second design. Let's see how a diehard fan handles this task. Your turn, Fuko.
I just have some very simple stitching line suit, but I didn't really change the design up that much. I also take notes from the Andrew Garfield Skater Boys versions, and I add some shoulder, elbow, and knee guard to show the contrast of Peter Parker nerdiness and Spider-Man's kind of sportiness. And I also changed the boot design to a pair of slip-on. The spider symbol will be as simple as the comic, but bigger and more symmetrical. The two pairs of middle legs will run along the flank hemlines. Its length frame are bold and 3 like Miles Morales' eyes from the PS4 game. For the web shooter, I also reused some classic design from the old comics, and I added some extra thumbstick for him to change the web shooting pattern manually. I really like the design from the abdomen section from the Tasm suit and the suit from Ultimate Alliance 3, so I take a bit from them and apply some the design, like separating the belly and the waist. I also want to synchronize my legs with my arms, so I remove the red patches connecting my arms and the shoulders. As for the black lines, I think it's enough to just add the spider symbol, web shooter, and those protection pads. As for the suit material, I really like the material of the Atom Smasher suits from the upcoming Black Adam movie, so I just copy it, and it is a one-to-one copy. And the protection guard is I take it from the Miles suit from the beginning of the game.
Again, the Atom Smasher's style texture is something I can't just about detailing. I also want to redraw the spider symbol, but to say the least, I'm pretty happy with this one. It's like I'm constantly leveling up during the drawing process. But it also worried me, because my design was drawn first when I wasn't sure about my skills. But, I think it's basically the same as the comic and classic suit at the end of No Way Home, except for the creative D parts detail and the mindset about those slip-ons for easily transforming between two states. It makes me feel quite energetic and cool, just like Andrew Garfield. There's not too many stitching lines, just the simple quality of a handmade suit.
Well, I think the protective pads will be a controversial detail. I mean, it's quite new and different from other Spider-Man's designs. When people think of Spidey suits, they usually think of a streamlined design because how he's very athletic and how he's very agile. And I feel like these pads are breaking that expectation in their eyes. But from a practical point of view, I can see why Peter needs them. It protects joints that is vital and it's very prone to injury. It's just that I'm afraid, it might get in the way every time the Spider-Man swings.
For the first time, I'll have to agree with Penny K. Like, it's true that the shoulder pad makes me feel cumbersome.
Really? The next time I'll make it more compact.
And another problem is the slip-on thing. Like, they're the type of shoes that are always quickly worn on the feet. Like, if you sew them right with the lower legs, they won't be slip-ons anymore.
Oh, right.
See?
Well, I haven't paid enough attention. But hey, everyone has different opinions. Now let's move on. Yep, that spider symbol. It shows that Fuko is truly a giant comic fan. It's 90% similar to the comic book, except for the legs.
I think it's pretty, but I'm getting the feeling that those middle legs are making the design not so good. It's probably because the stitching lines are right next to the spider's legs.
Maybe so. While the stitching lines are quite simple, I have to admit that there are a few lines that are a bit confusing. It doesn't make much sense, honestly speaking. So, do the other two have anything else to say?
I don't. I'm still listening to your reviews right now.
I have no problem with the symbol. In fact, I can see that it blends well with the spiderweb pattern on the body. And I also think that the pattern of the spider cobweb is quite new because there's not a lot of it, and the way that it's spread throughout the body highlights some of the muscle, right? Especially the abdominal one, which is very important because it shows, a strong core means a strong body.
Oh yeah, I also find the spider cobweb layout quite unique. But in the chest part, I see some lines that remind me more of Batman's bat symbol. And by the way, in the future, we're also gonna have a video exactly like this, but for Batman, guys.
Wow, surprise!
Okay, alright. Can we move on right now?
Okay.
So, Fuko, is this spider web a random thing you've done on the spot? Or is it something that you've done on purpose?
Well, let's keep it secret for now.
Wow.
Okay, then I won't bother you anymore. But with this design, I find the web shooters part quite good and interesting, especially the mechanism part.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Don't have a lot of opinions about this design. A design inspired by web shooters from old comics runs is pretty obvious for me.
Personally, I'm quite impressed with the description, but I do think that the web shooters are a little too big. Otherwise, I think I'll stop here, because in terms of the placement of the red and blue parts, I don't really see much of a difference from other Spider-Man suits.
I do have a bit of problem with this layout though, like specifically the waist. If you've designed the same suit as the Marvel Ultimate Alliance free suit, I think the waist should be a little closer to the abdomen. Not too far apart like this, and also a bit larger. Because looking at them like this is like trouser pockets. Other than that, okay, I have no other opinion. I even think that this suit has been designed quite well.
Wait a minute. I'm not done yet, bro.
Come on!
A true artist, huh?
Thanks. Actually, about the red and blue layout, I am not very satisfied with the separation between the gloves and the shoulders, because like me and some expert once said, is that if it is connected or too long, it will cause an imbalance with the legs. Unfortunately, Fuko's legs are doing quite well in this design. I also don't like the black option on the knee parts with the elbows because it looks rough and not seamless. That's also why I can't feel Fuko has really separated the red that original connect the shoulders and the hands. Like Zeleny said, well, the waist is probably too small and a bit far from the belly, so it doesn't feel very pleasing to the eyes. If you leave it out like the Amazing Suit, Ben Reilly suit, or connect them together, it will look much better, at least for me. As for the shoulders, like Hunkei said, are quite big and entangled. I really want them to be more compact, like the current Robin's design. Then there are the web shooters, which are really cool, but I still think there should be a few more specifics, more suitable for selling toys, and suitable for the fact that Peter had assembled them by hand, from scratches, at least like the homemade web shooters of the Holland version. But aside from these shortcomings, at least for me, I don't have any judgments. Fuko really did a great job redesigning a live-action classic Spidey suit. Well, a real die fan, isn't it?
But I'm more of Miles' friend.
Oh, okay. Speaking of protective pads, although it's true that Fuko's idea is really good and creative, I'm sure that you aren't the first or the only one to think of this, right?
I have considered that as well.
It's true that there's a lot of Spider-Man lovers out there who can draw and have a really good imagination. I remember Basephoth talking about this Spider-Man sauna event where too many people, drew armor-clad suits. Oh, you're trying to find a way to lead me into the next design, eh?
Yeah.
Good effort. Alright, so everyone already understands what the next design is like, right? Well then, the third design by Rio 2191. I found the original design of the tights on the film boring, so I decided to add a layer of repainted scrap metal armors on Peter Parker to show the absolute safety. The spider symbol is only the most visible when it's white like the advanced suit in the PS4 game. I'm inspired by the fact that real-life spiders have many eyes, so I've created a lens mechanism with many vision that can help Peter Parker see wider. I found that the MCU Iron Spider web shooters to be quite good, so I based off of it, because I wanted to create a triangle block to make the character more agile. I quite liked the design of the Amazing Suit's belly because it made the red part thinner for the blue part to create an impression of agility, so that's what I utilized, but still kept the red part on the waist. I don't think it's necessary to add black lines with this design because the spiderweb pattern itself is already black, so just adding black stitching lines on the hand, the feet, and the web shooters is enough. As for the texture, since I have Peter Parker in armor, I've studied the texture of the MCU Iron Spider, and for the fabric texture, I was inspired by Holland's upgraded suit.
I don't have too many problems with this design, since the texture is pretty simple. The only problems are the scraps of this suit, which is not like the MCU's Iron Spider is using nanotechnology, so I had to find a way to arrange the iron pieces carefully every time Peter poses. Second problem that I really dislike is that I couldn't understand what Rio drew on this helmet. Most of the grid cells are improvised by me. Even the lens thing is hard to recreate because even now I still can't see it, like the way Rio describes it. So while I really like the texture and shading of this painting, I'm not really proud of the overall look. But yes, let the negative things go for now. Let's talk about what we like about this design first. The idea of armoring isn't uncommon. Not only the MCU's Iron Spider, but Also a design by Alex Ross, if I remember correctly, did the same thing. But it did create a sense of security for Spidey, and that's a pretty solid thing. In fact, I find it to be more closely related to that design of Alex Ross than the MCU's Iron Spider, because there's no armor in the blue area to help Spidey move freely. The metal pieces are also arranged quite well, so it didn't take me too long to adjust them according to the pose, although there were still some that bothered me a bit.
Rio's changes, in my opinion, are very reasonable, but I suspect it goes a bit far from a classic suit. This sounds like a design that Pete will only use for a few issues in the comics and then throw it away.
I find the vibe of Super Sentai, Power Rangers, Kamen Rider quite heavy in this design. The helmet is really similar to, the Sentai, the Rangers, and the other armor pieces. It reminds me a lot of Kamen Rider. I mean, but if you think about it, Spidey's and Kamen Rider, they both have, an insect theme, right?
Well, it's true that there is a Spidey's design based on Kamen Rider in the game, but...
Really?
Oh yeah, but you wouldn't want to look at it that much. Shall we continue? What about Zeleny?
Are we talking about metal armor? Then I have no comments.
Huh?
Well, I feel it's fine.
Oh.
Well, I don't have a problem either.
Multiple viewing angles also make things different. That is also an opinion. About the upside down white spider symbol, cool, that's something I never thought of. It's true that there's an advanced suit with white symbol, but turning it upside down and stylizing it to match this iron suit concept is really something. However, the spider's belly, as I see, it has a red part. I don't really understand what it means, but looks like she's pregnant. I don't know if this version of Peter was bitten by a female spider or what.
I think it's a really good and perfect suit for a live action movie. But like I said, it's a completely different from the classic suit. So it can be called a rather unfortunate minus point.
I'm still just listening. No comments.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Now about the lenses. The idea of replicating the spider's eyes is pretty good, even if it's already done by others. Yeah, I know where you took it from, Rio. I know it. But the way Rio showed it to me wasn't good. I can't imagine those are the splits as Rio described.
Wait, what? They can split? Like, I was still thinking they were just patches of red armors running through the lenses. Because if it's what I think it is, the lenses are making it feel more like a villain than a hero, and I'm still finding the idea of this a novelty.
It's really a novelty. But the truth is that it's gone way too far from a basic concept of a classic Spidey suit.
Yeah, it does deviate quite a bit from the classic Spider-Man. I think there's going to be a lot of people who's not going to be pleased with this detail. There's going to be a lot of controversy if the suit were to materialize. Although, I'm not going to lie, the combat mechanism is pretty cool.
But still the same problem. It's no longer a classic Spidey suit.
Well, yeah, it fits very well. But for a suit that doesn't use nanotech but only iron scraps, I find it quite awkward every time Spidey moves his hands. I think Peter wouldn't be able to move his wrist normally if he wore this suit.
As for me, I'm finding the color selection of web shooters not very good. It seems to me that Rio is trying to insert black to compensate for other areas without thinking carefully. But when it comes to metal, people usually don't think about black. But are there metallic colors like copper, gold, silver, or platinum? Well, even the MCU's Guiding Spider has a limit on the black. Like, change it all to dark purple and leave the web shooters gold, right? Like, black isn't bad, but it's out of place compared to the whole palette.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but for the rest, I don't see much of a problem.
I think the color scheme is fine, but if we want to fix it, I think we should add more white borderlines to the shoulder pad, separating blues from the red to keep the consistency, because in other places, it also had a white borderlines.
That's right too. As for the rest, I don't have any other opinion because Rio's choice of color has already tried to stick with classic suit, so we won't be complicating the matter anymore.
Ha ha.
Ha 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 ha!
As for stitching line on the legs, I found them a bit MCU-ish, yuck. But better because they didn't spam nonsense like the starch suit and stuff.
Yeah, I think these lines are fine. Honestly, there isn't really much to say other than how I hate the metal scales of this suit as...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering as well. You know, letting it split into some metal scales, you know, like the MCU Iron Spider, you know, it looks boring. If only the spiderweb lines were etched on the armor, I think it would be much better.
But this isn't a nanotech suit, so it's even worse. Peter, besides fighting scrap metals from the trash, doesn't really have the resources, at least initially, to make a high-tech suit like this.
So it looks like a layer of scales. But having said that again, I quite like the material of the blue part because it looks pretty solid. And probably because the texture is similar to the jeans, especially those that are worn by construction workers. So they can really withstand force and tear. If only it weren't as thin as the MCU Stark suit.
Oh yeah, I have to agree with you on this. And by that, I'm done with the comments.
We haven't heard what Lily said until now, have we?
Well, I'm just waiting for everyone to finish so I can introduce the next person. Because I've run out of things to comment on this design. But I'm sure it's over now, right? Just finished the material part, right?
Yeah.
Then let's speed run into the fourth design from NeoHeisen. It feels like forever.
3 downs for the goal.
Initially, I was going to put on scrap metal armor based on the MCU's Iron Spider, but after a few sketches, I found that there were a few details that weren't right, so I changed it back to the classic bodysuit, keeping only a few pieces of armor on. I also added a lot of stitching lines and patchwork patches to show how Peter had to find the materials to make the suit himself. As for the shoes, I studied from the basketball shoes because I remember basketball is a strong sport which requires constant jumping, quite suitable for Spidey. I've stylized the spider symbol into large black parts all over the chest, some sort of pseudo-armors. As for the lens mechanism, I see that real-life spiders have 8 eyes, so I decided to add that small lenses around the main lens. It's the multi-lens mechanism that today's smartphones and machines are trying to replicate. And for the web shooters, I wanted a revolver gun mechanism to be able to change ways of web shooting from time to time, so I designed it to be a large rotating cylinder around the wrist. I removed all the red patches on his hands, fingers, calves, and even his waist, and replaced the basic blue with dark blue. Besides the spider's web on the body, and also in addition to the arms, fingers, calf armor, with the size, I don't feel like putting black on the spider symbol anymore. So I changed it to dark blue, because if I went in with black, that would make the suit too dark. And as for the texture, I simply followed Spidey Holland's dark suit, because I found the material to be quite thick and safe.
That's by the cover part, yes! This design really doesn't bother me at all, but the way NeoHeisen arranged their cobwebs made my brain explode. It's really uneven and doesn't even feel like a cobweb, despite Neo being a regularist. The spider symbol that was also delayed for a long while, for me, because of these spider cobwebs. Even so, I can feel this design is quite invested, but unfortunately, it looks more like a Ben Reilly suit than a Peter Parker's classic suit. Oh wait, Ben Reilly is still a clone of Peter Parker, isn't he? So we can conclude that the Ben Reilly suit is the most perfect classic Spidey suit. As for the idea of only covering a few areas of armor, I think it's a good idea. At least easier to move and has a bit more emphasis than real suit. Actually, Fuko and I also had discussion with Neo from the first day. From the first day he started to come up with design ideas, so we already know his previous sketches.
Yeah, actually I like his whole idea a little bit better. But the new armor looks so much cleaner.
I'm not sure about the practicality of the pseudo-armor part. It might interfere with the movement quite a bit.
Yes, it does look heavy, not very flexible if you look at the overall.
But I respect the fact that he took the old concept out and made it into a new one.
Well, just by looking at it, I think everyone knows what I'm about to say. This design suffers from a fundamental law, even worse than Rio's. It is no longer a classic Spidey suit. However, I am amazed that Neo can design a suit exactly like Ben Reilly's. Me and Basephoth have been following his design process, can totally confirm that he doesn't know a thing about him. Yet the result is very surprising. I can see him join the comic industry in the near future.
And by the way, this is my first video, so I hope you guys support it by clicking like and sharing so I can continue to make similar content like this about drawing.
Yes, please, show your support.
Basephoth?
And if you're curious to know what the next content is, click on the subscription button and turn on notification to see my new videos as soon as possible.
Right.
Yeah, we're still gonna show up a lot.
Now back to the podcast.
Speaking of which, I personally think that the leg stitching line seems to indicate good aerodynamics. I mean, I don't really understand why, but that's what it makes me feel.
Well, just so you know, ideas like this can really create a good aerodynamic feeling for the legs because it is quite similar to...
Oh, Kamen Rider Kabuto.
As for the basketball shoes, I can see it's a good idea, but it's not that perfect, you know. I also used to play basketball, and yes, I do admit that basketball players run, jump a lot, and having these shoes makes me feel like running and jumping better. But in terms of mobility, not so much. There are many types of basketball shoes that are often made quite sturdy to protect your feet and also reduce mobility quite a bit. Basketball used to be my life purpose in high school years. I even have a bunch of original characters, OC, that can play the sport.
Is there even a story where you don't mention basketball?
Well, but now it's a pity that I don't play it anymore. Anyway, about the spider symbol, I personally do not like it very much because it looks too aggressive.
Yes, so too. It's too fuzzy and the overall design looks good, but it doesn't look like Peter has put scrap metal on it. More like some super rich sugar daddies had invested in it.
Okay. But I think it's a pretty daring idea to enlarge the spider symbol into a layer of armor, since I think people are pretty used to the symbol, being decorations. And as Fuko say, the overall design is quite suitable.
The only thing I'm wondering about is the lenses. Like, While studying the spider's eye might seem like an interesting idea at first, how would it work if it was a handmade suit? There's an example that is quite close to using many lenses that I can think of is the iPhone, for example. Even though there are many lenses, it's still just only one screen. So how will it work? And if that's the way the current iPhone works, how did Peter in the beginning have the budget to afford it?
At first glance, I thought it was broken glass on his face after some fighting.
Actually, I forgot one thing. Peter Parker loved photography and is also exceptionally intelligent. So he can definitely create an iPhone-like lens mechanism in his mask to create a wider vision. I think it's very suitable for this type of design.
Well, in real life, Spider-Man's mask can naturally have shapes like that. Except for Holland's version, which also requires CGI support. Both Garfield in Tarzan 2 and Maguire have to wear a layer of hard plastic beneath the mask to look nice and breathe easily. Not to mention that VR technology is getting better and better. So now it's normal for electronic screens to be close to the eyes and still be able to see everything through them.
I'm actually thinking that having so many lenses can open up new possibilities for Spidey. Being able to observe the situation, people that calls for help, while still being able to focus on the actual fighting. You can say that these extra eyes will perhaps optimize his spider sense.
I'm still not quite convinced on the lens things, but okay.
When it comes to this gimmick, I like the idea that follow a revolver-like gimmick. I think it's suitable to. I think it will be very easy to create a toy gimmick for this live-action suit.
And it's all about toys.
Yeah, this one really reminds me of that Iron Fist guy in Kung Fu Hustle. I don't know if you've seen the movie. Really awesome movie, highly recommended. But think about it, fighting bad guys with rings on your wrist, that's kind of fun. And children will like it even more.
Well, an example closest to fans is Shang-Chi's 10 rings, because Shang-Chi basically took inspiration from Kung Fu Hustle a lot. I also like this revolver mechanism. It allows Peter to optimize the use of spider webs, know how much webs he has left, can change the way he shoots. Its appearance can also be used for hand-to-hand combat or blocking physical damage like Wonder Woman. And the good thing is that it is quite similar to Ben Reilly's web shooter's design, at least for me. Speaking of Ben Reilly, I think the color scheme of this version has also done very well. So the Ben Reilly suit is the most perfect classic Spidey suit.
The red patch on the lower body is being minimized, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Ben Reilly's suit can only have a consistent color arrangement from the upper and lower half. So I don't think we should discuss this issue too much. And although Neo's color scheme is a bit too dark, I think it's very suitable for this direction he's going for. But if you want to use the texture of the stock suit, I don't think it's suitable. And now we have a fifth design from boring 8 numbers. Yeah, wow, what a name that is. Let's go.
Wait, what about my opinion?
Doesn't matter. You don't even have a specific opinion about the stock suit earlier, so why now? I was impressed with Garfield the Amazing Suit, so I studied it very closely. However, I deliberately used an asymmetrical design because the randomness will clearly show the handmade feeling of the suit as well as the contradiction between Peter and Spider-Man. I have adjusted the center of the web to the center of the chest to make it easier to stylize the spider symbols so that the head of the spider is at the center of the web and the legs are in the rest of the web. As for the lenses, I made them bigger and took inspiration from Venom's eyes because they have the necessary softness. Also because of the asymmetrical design, I think having a Spidey that can only shoot back from his left hand feels quite interesting. And the blue patch, like an open finger glove, is to show that. I removed all the red section on his upper arm, belly, and in his waist, and part of his left hand so the blue will take up more. But also extend the right foot above the knee to show the playfulness of Spidey. The black patches I add to the eyes, the spider web, and the spider symbol are enough because I am chosen a not too bright color scheme. As for the texture, I just took it from actual fabric.
Well, this is the most interesting pose I've ever drawn because I never tried poses like this before. Yeah, right, boy?
Yeah, it looks pretty athletic, just like Garfield's version.
But I don't really like the asymmetry because I'm a half-boy radio analyst. And the classic Spidey suit is a well-proportioned suit, so yeah, all I can say is, wow, what an effort to learn from the amazing suit. The only thing I really like is the stitching lines. But, well, probably partly because of the way I render it.
You all know what I'm gonna say. Not classic suit, but this suit large movie take on steampunk or diesel punk theme. I think it's good. Using asymmetry to solve the contrast in Peter is something that's not new, but this way of thinking, I dig it.
I also think that this is a good idea. Viewers are already familiar with symmetrical, well-proportioned hero suits, so why not make an asymmetrical Spidey suit? Although, personally, I would love to see a more intense asymmetry in the design of this suit, because to be honest, I don't really see that effect from the drawing, unless I read the description.
What's the matter, Z?
Oh, it's nothing. Actually, I have something to say about this asymmetric concept, but we haven't talked about that section yet, so that's for later. Also, I'm thinking that the spider symbol's legs look a bit big, like fat worms. I know Boring is trying to
That's weird.
Black patches to satisfy our given conditions. It's probably better to keep them slimmer.
Oh yeah, I'm so tiny bit annoyed with this detail. Looks off. I can only see a bunch of eels rubbing on Spidey's body,
Really? Because I quite like this stylized idea. Placing the body of the spider in the center of the web, in the center of the chest, not something you see every day. They always keep the center of the web on the face.
Well, but the main reason people put the center of the web on the face is to create a focal point for the viewer. And I think maybe you guys didn't notice, but it seems that to emphasize the mutation of the spider that bit Peter, Boring has removed a pair of this spider symbol's legs. A normal and perfectly healthy spider always has 4 pairs of legs.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I just noticed it right now.
Wow, that's right. Probably because I didn't like this symbol at all, so I didn't pay much attention to it.
Well, it's not that important, is it? In my opinion, it's very stylized like this, so it's not that big of a problem, no?
That's what he said. Okay, back to the discussion. Now we're at the Spidey lenses session. What do you think, Fuko? For me, I didn't like them at all.
Well, I don't really hate it, but I do think it's weird. I don't think it's really following the requirement in the challenge at all. I'm reminded of Venom's eye, but this eye can move because he's a parasite. So, how can this eye work in this suit? However, there's a unique and bizarre thing I like about the design. The websuit is only in the left hand.
And this is also the detail that I want to comment on. While the asymmetry is kind of fun, but isn't the fact that you can only shoot with one hand a bit inconvenient? Because I think the prerequisite for designing a Spidey suit is to be flexible and convenient.
Yeah, that's why I don't like it. And I also think I've run out of things to comment on. Classic color segmentation, dark colors are fine because I also quite like many dark design. Oh, but let's see what Fuko will say about this session.
I really do not like the color division in this design. This feels like it's taken from Alex Ross' Spider-Man version, but I feel it a bit more restrained or something. The red part is too constrained in the top half, and the bottom half has too much blue. I think this is where Boring doesn't really understand why people would like more blue than red. I think the color is also a bit dark in it. I think it doesn't fit this bright color style. As for the material, since Boring doesn't elaborate much on this, I don't have anything more to say.
Oh, is that done? That fast?
I think so. Winkei?
Honestly, I don't have problems with this suit, except for the eel-like symbol that I've mentioned. Okay, so let's move on to the sixth design by Atmart318. I was impressed with Garfield's The Amazing Suit, so I studied it closely. The detail that I changed to make the suit more handmade are the stitching lines on all the patches. The addition of dark gray patches is to strengthen and protect the body a bit. I stylized the spider symbol by combining the Amazing Suits with a Stark suit, matching the cobweb distribution like the Amazing Suit. As for the lenses, I made the two corners more pointy. The rest were rounded to increase Spidey's flexibility, while the lens mechanism is still the same as Holland. As for the web shooters, I think they're close to Stark's suit, but it's best to make them smaller and more compact. Also, the red lines I've added on them are to show the amount of web left in stock. I also added small rings on the fingers to allow Peter to change the web shooting patterns. The layout of the red patches I also drew almost the same as the Amazing Suit, but there's a slight change in the shoulder parts where I separate them from the chest and arms. And for the spider web lines, I also changed to blue because your requirements want more blue than red. The belt, spider symbol, ankles, lenses, and anything related to web shooters are all black, only adding a few red neon lights that glow especially at nighttime. As for the texture, I still based off the Amazing Suit, but with a slight change because I thought it has too many details, only keeping the air pockets and the smoothness of the materials.
I've known Atma for a long time thanks to common interest in tokusatsu and superheroes since my last year of middle school, so I also know that he is a person who loves to draw special details that must be beautiful. But actually, redrawing Atma's designs is not an easy thing, as we don't always understand each other, and Atma also has quite a few ideas that always have become a real big challenge for me to overcome. But when I overcome them, I'm quite proud. Probably the biggest challenge for me is anything related to Atma's webs. From the spider symbol, array splitting, etc. etc. I haven't had much of a problem with the rest. Actually, there are a few things I don't like, but it's not that bad. And since Artmark is one of my best friends, I let it slide for now. Anyway, please feel free to bash him in every way you can think of, guys.
Well, another design that makes the same mistake as the previous three, in my opinion. Although you can see a little bit of the classic suit in there, I think this is more like the advanced suits from the PS4 because of these great patches.
Wait. What do you say? Can you repeat it for me, please?
It looked more like the advanced suit because of the gray patches.
Ha! Psych! See that, bro? You become what you hate the most.
Oh, I find it more like Ultraman. Gray patches, egg-shaped eyes. You tell me.
Oh, that guy is an Ultraman's hard fan, so it's kinda easy to understand why.
I think turning the web blue is a good idea. But the red section can be cut a bit too small if he's not careful with this.
I didn't see much of a problem. There might be some people who don't like this detail, but well, I think it's fine.
Huh, really? Well, because although I like the color distribution with all the gray patches, I think it's quite contradictory, to the requirement of a handmade suit because of these glowing lines that makes the overall design just feel too high-tech. Even the overly angular shape of the spider symbol unintentionally reinforces this high-tech feel.
I didn't pay much attention to the high-tech part because I didn't really see any of that. But overall, I quite like this spider symbols. It's very harmonious with the design. But about the gray part, I don't think he handled this very well. It feels like they are invading the other color a bit too much. Even though the idea is kind of bold, I think it would be better if the gray area is a bit smaller.
I also have to agree with Fuko. I don't think these gray patches go well with the Spidey suit. I really don't like this color combo very much. But other than that, I don't see a problem. But are we messing with the order of sections? Because I suddenly feel like we've jumped to the color section while web shooters haven't been reviewed yet.
Maybe because all this detail is very closely linked, so it's kind of hard to separate it.
Oh, okay, then I'm done.
Huh? That's it?
Yeah, that's it. The other details are perfectly fine.
It feels like Zeleny is bored after Boris' design, so she's not in the mood to comment anymore. I swear that she hasn't said too much since the previous design, I think.
But the rest section, I think it's very beautiful. Cutting out the shoulder part very highlight the human anatomy.
Yep, that's right. Isolating the red area, I think, really helped emphasize Spidey muscles, especially the upper body, like, the chest, the abdomen, the shoulders. These are the parts that Spidey uses the most.
So, I'm different from everyone else, huh? Because I don't really like that shoulder separation. Well, but I really like the details of the web shooter's part.
I think going for the star suit design for the web shooter is a safe choice. I especially like the red light that shows the remaining web fluid in the ring to change the way the web was shot.
Same as you and NeoHeisen, right?
Finally, the material like the Tasm suit is a very safe choice as well. Removing the texture and keeping the airport is a good execution. Maybe Mr. Basephoth thinks so too? Everyone here said everything you have been thinking, and you also really like the Tasm suit from the very start, so...
Well, yeah. So now, it's time. We've already gone through all 6 designs, my friends. We also commented on them. From that, we should know who designed the best suit out of 6 of my friends. But there's still one more design that hasn't been shown yet.
Ooh.
Yay!
And that's mine.
What?
No, seriously. What's the point if I'm the owner of this drawing channel and also the manager of this design challenge? Didn't design anything myself. I gotta have some of the spotlight too.
I was impressed with Garfield's The Amazing Suit, so I studied it closely. The details I changed to make the suit more handmade are the stitching lines on the joints that easily wrinkle and stretch, and the web shooters that are similar to the Amazing Suits, which were made from wristwatches. I like the Amazing Suits spider symbol, but also like the Future Foundation one, so I combined them all. Let the spider's legs run down between the red and blue patches. Except for the top pair of legs, I let it run around behind the neck to represent the detachable Spidey's mask. As for the web shooters, I applied the shapes and concepts of both the MCU's Iron Spider suit and the Amazing Suit, but now gave the back of the hand more room to move. The layout of the red patches is exactly the same as the Amazing Suit, but with a slight change. I want to separate the shoulders and arms, replace the red patches on the biceps, waist, as well as adding to the arms, calves and legs some of the spider's legs from red spider symbol on the back. For the black patches, I added them to the shoe soles, the web shooters, the spider symbol on the chest and the lens frames. As for the texture, I applied the brick wall style that I found on the web suit, adding red patches. The blue patches are normal stretch fabric but thicker.
Wow!
Nice.
Whoa! I have nothing to say. I'm proud of this design and it is also one of the most viewed and liked designs on my social media site, which you can access by clicking on the link tree below the description of this video. And although I a bit regret drawing it first, when my level was still not very good, as well as how I found it unsatisfactory when looking at the anatomy, texture, pose, and my spider symbol. Oh, and then the symbol on the back with the red limbs and legs running along the body. I still also not satisfied because this one was created right on the spot. It was not carefully calculated first. But I think this could be a masterpiece that would beat Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man No Way Home.
Look at little Goblin Jr. Gonna cry.
Now then, please take it easy, guys.
I like this design the best and don't really have any critics. In fact, to review in the correct order is quite difficult because this suit is also designed and invested in the same way as Edward's suit. To say the least, I was most impressed with the symbol's top spider legs, on the chest that run around the neck to show off the Spidey's mask. It does give me a more colored feel, like something that often appears in the coolest designs. I guess I'll stop here because the other two will probably have much longer opinions than mine.
Aw, thank you. That is nice, You make my day.
Oh, no, stop.
I also quite like this design. Not only does it stick quite closely to a classic Spidey suit, but also has the red symbol spider legs detail running along the back, serving as dividing lines between the blue and the red patches. This is a rather new idea. But like I said before, I only wish that Basephoth could have drawn more so I could see more angles of this design.
Oh yeah, at first looking at Spidey's leg with the addition of spider legs made me feel like I was looking at a tokusatsu design.
Those are pretty cool comments that came from you too. There doesn't seem to be a single negative word or suggestion about the design. Hey, are you two being easy on me?
No, for real. I like this
I'm
design.
even wondering if this design is really yours, because the Basephoth that I know in real life has an extremely irate fashion sense.
Yeah, she's got a point. What about Fuko? You have not said anything just now, have you?
Oh, me? I'm taking notes.
Taking notes. Wow. So, what do you have for me?
As the other two said, I also think it's a good adaptation of the classic suit. Using stitching line to modernize the suit is a safe choice. But
what?
personally, I find it's a bit too fuzzy or something. Maybe a bit too confused if you know what I mean. Doesn't really look feasible, especially for a harness suit.
Why isn't it possible?
It's just not.
Why not, you stupid bastard?
Anyway, I think the colors is very balanced. But unlike the other two, I really don't like the separating the red patches, like in the shoulder, forearm, and boots. It doesn't feel really seamless. Of course, it's really just my personal opinion. So, because the overall suit is already good,
Well, it's okay. I still open and learn from these opinions too, you know.
as for the spider symbols, I think it's matched the suit. Having the top two spider legs at the zipper line for the mask still separate from the suit is a really unique idea, just like Z said. And making the spider leg thick panel lines isn't a new idea. I can see a great future foundation suit improved on your design language.
Yeah.
Finally, the websuit followed the task suit very, very well. I think they suit the vibe of this suit very well. And as for the lens and material, I don't have much of an opinion on this. It's taken from the very best Spidey suit in detail so far.
Okay. Thank you so much. This design seems to have the shortest reviews among the 7 designs so far, right? I didn't expect it to be so well received. Or maybe it's because I am the one who synthesized the topic, so maybe I have an advantage. I don't know, but this challenge is also quite fun for me too, so I really hope I can continue. I might not consider myself an amateur artist anymore. Starting from the next video, I would try to claim myself as a semi-professional artist. Okay, so after I sent 6 my friends these common requirements to design and send it back the perfect live-action classic Spider-Man suits from their own perspectives, work together with Zeleny, Winkei and Fuko to review them, we have the following rankings. Of course, this is just a ranking for reference only. It's also up to your preferences too, the people who watch this video of mine. But personally, after this challenge, we can see that despite being limited by extremely specific requirements, each person's design language can still create diverse designs. There's almost no similarities between them. Deep down, way before the challenge started, I still thought that there might be a big fat chance everyone would end up with finished artworks that look the same as the others, but I was dead wrong. So, in your opinion, which design do you like the most and why? If these designs are fortunate enough to appear in the next Spider-Man games made by Insomniac Games, what do you think they would be called? Please write your comments right below. I also really want to thank everyone who joined this podcast with me today.
Nice.
No problem, bro.
Yay!
And if you love this video, please support me so I can keep on making this kind of content by pressing the like, share buttons together with your friends, as well as subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell to receive the latest and hottest video from me. Remember, I will be making videos about sharing some of my own experiences, drawing shonen characters, as well as the gradually planned contents that I think you might enjoy. For now, goodbye and see you in the next video. And maybe one of the upcoming videos will be about redesigning Mr. Fantastic.